Hi, my name is Mark Hambley of Shepley's. In this video we're going to cover two things. First, we will demonstrate how to properly install an Andersen A-Series patio door frame. The second, we will demonstrate how to properly install an Andersen A-Series patio door unit using basic and high-performance techniques. Andersen A-Series patio door units are supplied from the factory assembled or unassembled, other than the 4-panel unit, which is always unassembled because of its size. If you choose unassembled, you can have those frames assembled at Shepley's in a climate-controlled environment. If you choose unassembled units, you're going to get 3 boxes shipped to the job site. You're going to have an operating panel, a stationary panel, and a frame box. Okay, now we're going to start with the assembly of an Andersen A-Series patio door frame. During this assembly, it's critical that you follow manufacturer's instructions and also pay attention to the caulking detailed when you're putting the frame together, especially at the end caps. Failure to do so could cause the unit to leak. Okay, so we're going to start assembling the Andersen A-Series patio door frame, and we're going to start at the sill. And you're going to notice on this sill there's an end cap, and these end caps are handed. And you're going to notice on each side of the sill end cap is a gasket. This gasket allows for a better seal. For those of you who are familiar with the 400 series, that product doesn't have this type of sill end cap. So what we're going to do is we're going to install the end cap into this area of the unit, and that gasket presses nice and tight to the end of the sill. Now you're going to notice there's a caulking detail, and it shows it in the instructions to follow this line, this pattern right here. And this caulking detail is very important to the install of this unit, as I was stating earlier. Failure to follow these instructions will cause the unit to leak. So once that is caulked, now you're ready for the side jamb to be assembled onto the unit. Using a number 8 stainless steel screw to fasten the top part just on the whole location, right on top of the flange, and just bring it in tight. The next part of the caulking application is to make sure the nozzle of the caulking gun is inside the installation screw hole in here, and inject caulking. Just pump it until you feel the squeeze out, and then with another stainless steel screw, install that into that hole. Okay, the other critical area, and you'll notice it on the bottom of the sill here, it says inject silicone per instructions into this area. So right into this screw location, you just pump it, and you're going to be able to hear it squeezing out, and you might even see it coming out towards the inside of the frame right here. And once you see that squeeze out, now you're going to assemble using stainless steel screw, and then we can just wipe that excess away. And the final one will be on this end right here, just to tighten up the frame. Last one towards the inside, just tightening that up. Now we're just going to repeat this process on the opposite side of the sill. And then what we'll do is we'll bring the side jamb down, and then using stainless steel screw on the top to secure the side jamb to the sill. And again, the next procedure is to inject silicone into the side jamb. This is injecting it into that area, that cavity. And again, you're going to get a little bit of squeeze out there. That's fine, just wipe it away. Careful not to over tighten. Okay, and again, on the bottom side of the sill, inject silicone per instructions. So we want to make sure we're pumping that screw hole location until you see squeeze out coming out right there. Now you know you got enough. Again, a stainless steel screw. And then just clean up the excess. And the last one will be on this end. And then you're all set. The sill is now assembled. You can see as we assembled the sill to the side jam, the squeeze out is right here. So where we were injecting that, you could see the squeeze out. That's what you want to see. And it's on both ends. That's how you can tell you have enough. If you're not seeing squeeze out, then you don't have enough. Keep pumping that caulking until you see it. Now we're going to start with the head. Okay, before we assemble the head jam piece, we need to remove the interior stop, which is already attached to the head jam. Okay, this comes in the box already attached, so we're going to start off with a bumper. Removing that, 2 screws, and then there's 5 screws in the head trim piece that get removed. And you can safely remove the interior head stop and just put it aside. You're going to be using that later. And now we can start the assembly of the head jam. The head jam also has a corner key, plastic corner key, so you got to really be careful with this piece right here, because if you break that, that's not going to allow the frame to assemble properly. So you have to be aware of that. The caulking procedure on this is following the wood area of the head jam, and make sure you put a good amount of caulking on there. More caulking the better. Okay, so we just want to make sure we get caulking on all those areas. And now we're going to start the assembly of the head jam piece. So yeah, we're going to insert the plastic corner key into the top portion of the head jam. Just kind of wipe that excess caulking away. Before we start the installation of the screw holes, again, the instructions require to pump these installation areas with caulking. Now the screws for that are going to go into the corner keys are small stainless steel screws. Just get them in there snug. You can see how that pulls that frame together. And then repeat the process on the opposite side of the corner key. Just pulling it tight. The other set of screws, there's no caulking required on this part because you've already applied the caulking, and these are yellow screws. You can see the squeeze out on the frame. Okay, so the head jam on that side is fastened, and now we'll repeat the process on the other side. So now we've finished the assembly of the frame with the side jams and the head jam and the sill. Last thing we're going to do is we're going to apply the corner pad to the head jam. On each side has a corner pad, and it's a peel and stick. It's nice and tight to the corner. Press it down in place. This is called a sergeant stripe. Bead of caulking around the corner. Okay. And you repeat the process on the opposite side. What you're seeing here is squeeze out at the miters at the top of the head jam. So when you're pumping that, the instructions say to inject silicone into those holes, those screw hole areas. That's what you're going to see. You're going to see the silicone squeeze out of those miters. If you're not seeing that, then you're not injecting enough. So you got to keep pumping that silicone until you see that. Okay, so now we're going to start the installation process of the Andersen A-Series patio door. There are 5 key requirements for install of an A-Series patio door unit that I want to key on outside of the normal plumb level and square. You need to make sure that the caulking behind the flanges or on the sheathing is done. 3 beads of silicone along the pan, whether it be a flex pan or a lead pan, the 3 beads need to be applied. And paying attention to that interior bead along the inner edge is very important for a nice tight seal. Proper application of Vicor over the flanges and making sure it wraps onto the unit. Proper shimming at installation areas. and the use of pure black, which is a spray foam applied to the interior side behind each corner of the flange, will really give you a high performance to your install. Okay, now that we've checked for plumb, level, and square, now we're going to start the installation of the unit. Before we actually do the unit, we want to decide on which kind of pan we want to use. Most contractors are using traditional lead or copper. There are other options out there, which is a DuPont Flex, which we're going to use today. The reason for this is it's very flexible, it's very easy to install, and it gives you that install that you're looking for. Okay, so now we're going to start the installation of the Flex wrap. And I'm just going to run it out tight to the corners here. Make sure you're pressing this stuff nice and tight to the corners. This Flex wrap moves so easy. Just flatten it out. Down. And then peel off this corner. And you can see this how it stretches. Take your thumb and just kind of wrap it to the corner. Because we're in a controlled environment, this is sticking pretty well. When you're out in the field, obviously, you're not going to get these type of conditions unless you're in the summertime. So it might be a little colder. That's when you might need to use a heat gun. Okay, so we're just going to continue the Flex wrap down the remainder portion of the sill, just pressing it right into place. Again, making sure when you get to the corners, it's nice and tight. Pulling this towards you. Allow it to wrap right around the corner. Okay, so now that we have our pan installed, now we're going to apply the beads of silicone to the pan. And these are 1/4 inch beads. And really focus in on this back edge, making sure you're nice and straight there. Make sure you get a nice bead of silicone there. Like I said before, a little more silicone is better than not having enough there. With this application, we are basically doing a perimeter type installation where it's a barrier installation. You know, whether you're doing a flex pan or you're doing a lead pan, these beads are really important. Okay, so now we're going to do the perimeter portion of the caulking detail. The flange goes right up against this caulking detail. Now, guys in the field will, most of the time I've seen they just do it around the rough opening, 1/4 inch off the rough opening. Other guys do it on the back of the flange. I'm going to do it on the, obviously on the rough opening here because I think it's easier. As long as you're applying this silicone bead along this edge, this is another critical area that caulking needs to be applied. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of times I'm in the field, I very seldom see this being done. I wish I saw it done more often. You notice how that house wrap paper is folded back. Believe it or not, I see a lot of houses being built today with that paper folded to the interior at the head jamb. That is the last line of defense, and as we get into the installation of the frame, you'll see how that will all come together and how it all play out. So now we're going to install the frame. We want to put the sill in first, so we're going to just kind of lean it back a little bit so we don't smudge the silicone bead on the sill. And we'll get the bottom portion of that flange in up against the sheathing, and then just kind of lean it in towards the opening, making contact with that silicone along that flange area. Okay, so I just wanted to push this in so you're showing the squeeze out of that silicone up against the flange here. Nice watertight barrier. So we just, the flange is up tight to the sheathing or the house wrap and getting a nice tight seal. You see the squeeze out? Okay, so now we got the unit in, tightly pressed against the exterior. Everything's lined up here. So now we're going to start shimming the inside. Make sure we got the unit nice and plumb. It's very important to make sure when you're installing this unit too that you're paying attention to the unit itself and making sure it's centered up in the rough opening. And what that's going to do, and it's going to allow you to do later on down the road, and you'll see it, is to be able to insulate properly. Installation screw goes right through that shim, securing that side. Again, checking it to make sure if it's, making sure that you're okay. Creating an even space with inside the rough opening is going to allow you to, insulate foam and do a high performance procedure that I'm going to show you later on during this install. So we started the shimming process. We got everything, we got the unit shimmed and we got it secured. So the unit is now all shimmed, and basically it's in the opening. It's not tightened down all the way yet because we want to make sure that the unit is, plumb leveling square. So what I'll do is I'll pull a diagonal on the outside just to make sure it's square. And if it's not, we can readjust the shims before we set the screws home. So now what we're going to do is we're going to fasten the sill clip. And we're going to start with the center one. And these like to be 12 inches on. So on this particular unit I have 12 inches on center all the way down. So we're going to install the center one first. And what that does is that secures the unit, the sill, right down to the subfloor. Now, because of this type of sill pan we're using a flex wrap, which is allowing us to use these clips. And you can see where the squeeze out of caulking is here. That's what you want to see. Now, if you were doing a lead pan and you were going to fold that lead up to the inside, traditionally how it's usually done, what you would do is, where these clips are, you would just notch out where the lead is, silicone, because I know a lot of guys don't like going down through their pans with screws, which I totally understand. But if you notch that out and you silicone that area and put that bracket right there and screw that down, you will not have any problems. Because don't forget, you also have 3 beads of silicone. You've got one on this back edge, one here, and one here. So you're still doing a barrier method, but you have the option of using the lead pan as well, and that's how you'd want to use the clips. Okay, so we're getting ready to install the stationary panel. I just wanted to point out the clips at the sill. You've got 2 black clips here that hold the stationary panel in at the bottom, and on the bottom of the stationary panel there is at the bottom of the filler rail there's a cutout on each end that'll allow this panel to slide up into that and then lock it into place. So there is a sticker on the sill. It says align the edge of the door stationary panel to this. So if you're in the field and you align this edge to that, this bracket will line up with a cutout on the filler rail, and that'll make it installation a little bit easier for you. All right, now on the stationary side of the jamb, you're going to notice that not only on the jamb, but also on the panel itself, there is an interlocking bracket. And what that allows this panel, this unit to do is stay nice and tight, locked in. Unlike the 400 series where it's sliding into a pocket, this has an interlock clip system. So you're interlocking here, you're interlocking at the jamb, and you're also interlocking up here at the head jamb. So when the panel slides in, you're going to hear the panel click and snap into place. And that locks that panel secured at the head jamb. If you don't hear a click, you don't hear it snap in, just give it a little more of a nudge and you'll hear it snap in. Okay, so we're going to install the stationary panel now. I would recommend that you have 2 guys on a panel, especially with impact. The panels are so heavy. Not to say that one person couldn't do it, but certainly for safety reasons. And you certainly don't want any product damage. And you also want to install it with the top part of the panel going up inside the head bracket, and we'll do that right now. And then we'll slide it right in the pocket. And you hear it snap in, click in together, and then just give it a nice pull back this way, making sure that you're secured and that panel is in. Okay, so now we're going to install the stationary panel end cap clip. They are handed. They give you 2 in the package, one for a left and one for a right. And it just snaps right in,
right into place. That seals that end.
Okay, so now we're going to install the top head jamb foam piece for the interlock. It's a sticky back which goes to the panel side, and you want it to the edge of the panel, flush with the edge of the panel, tight to the head piece right here. There's a groove that it fits in, so just right up tight to the edge of the panel. And just kind of press it into place, and then you're going to install your stationary panel interlock weather stripping. It says stationary panel or stationary on it, and that is going to sit right on top of that end cap bracket, and you're going to bend it right up into place through the panel. And in the installation bag, you're going to get color-coded screws that are used for the interlock, to secure the interlock. You're going to do that the whole way. Okay, so the next thing, we get the interlock weather stripping on, so we're going to install the stationary panel sill clip that fits down into a kerf down into between the sill and the edge of the panel, and it aligns with the interlock meeting strip of the stationary panel. But before we do that, we want to apply a bead of caulking. And basically, you just caulk along that groove there. And then you're going to apply this stationary clip bracket and snap it down into place. Now we're going to install the pile weather stripping over that clip just underneath the interlock weather stripping, and that's adhesive back too, and that just sticks right in there. Okay, so now we're going to install the stationary panel stiffener. The panel stiffener comes on a DP upgrade and Stormwatch product. You start off with the center screw hole and fasten the color-coded screw that they give you in the package. And just secure it. And now you're going to go to the sill and the head, and we're going to install the stainless steel clips. And the clips are facing, the leg of the clips are facing towards the exterior. Slide them underneath like so. That aligns with the hole there. And now we're going to install a 7/8 inch stainless steel screw through the bracket down into the sill, which is pre-drilled. And the reason why I said don't tighten that screw down, that way it allows the bracket to seat securely to the sill. Once you've done that, now you can tighten this up. Now we'll go to the top. We're going to be using stainless steel color match 2.5 inch long screws up through the head jamb. And what I've done here is I've shimmed the head jamb because we haven't yet secured the head jamb until we get the operating panel in. So making sure that top screw is just slightly backed off. Install the 2.5 inch long screws. And that's pre-drilled as well. And then secure the top screw through the fastener. And then you can pull the shim out. Okay, so now we're going to install the operating panel interlock weather stripping. And the interlock weather stripping seats itself at the bottom of this pile weather stripping right here. And although it doesn't say it in the instructions, I always like to kind of high performance this area with a little bit of caulking. And go up about a foot. I've already pre-drilled the holes for the interlock weather stripping, and that wraps around just like the stationary panel, just kind of wraps around. And this interlock weather stripping actually sits right on top of that pile weather stripping pad right there. And then using the color matched screws through the pre-drilled hole, secure the interlock weather stripping. And then after we get done securing this, we are going to secure the operating panel stiffener. Okay, so now we're going to install the panel stiffener on the edge of the operating panel. And we're going to start right in the middle here first. Pre-drilled holes. Now you're going to notice that this stiffener is white colored, and if you remember, the stationary was dove gray. Interior is white. Okay, so now we're going to start the installation of the operating panel. And the operating panel will go in with the tandem rollers down onto the stainless steel track. And again, I think it's best that you use two people to install it. Lifting it up, inserting into the track. Just moving it back and forth, making sure that the wheels are on the track. And if you remember when we were putting the frame together, we took off this interior headstop. And this allows this to seat right over the top of the operating panel, pushing it against the head jamb. You might have to move the wood piece back and forth a little bit to kind of guide it and get it in the right position. You'll also notice that your original installation screw holes that were up there, you will be able to go off of that as a guide, figure out if you're in the right spot, which we are. Okay, so now we're going to finish fastening off the head jamb piece that holds the operating panel in. And the set of screws you want to insert back in is the center. If you don't remember when you took it off, it's the center set of screws. Okay, so once we get the operating panel secured at the head jamb, we're just going to check the reveal on the operating side just to make sure that the reveals are even. And on this install, they're slightly off, so we're just going to remove the adjustment hole plug at the bottom and snap the adjustment up. Turning clockwise will raise the panel, and that'll get you right where you need to be on this particular install. If you need to lower the panel, it would be the reverse of that, it would be counterclockwise. Once we get the head jamb straight and shimmed, we're going to put the shims to either the right or the left side of the installation holes, and using the 3-inch color-coded screws, we're going to fasten the head jamb with the screws, and then we're going to remove the shims. And we're going to do that all the way across the top of the head jamb. You always remove the shims. You don't leave the shims in there in case you get some settling issues going on. While we're at this point, interior trim, you never want to trim below the white line on this right here, because if we ever have to pull this panel out, this whole head stock needs to come out. So if you trim down below that, it's going to mean pulling the interior casing off. So it's best to stay above that. Okay, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to seal up the bottom corners of this unit using pure black. Pure black is perfect for outside applications. It seals, it's used for ponds, water gardens, things of that nature. So, but we're going to use it here in the corner of each side, and we're just going to inject it, and you get tight to the back side of the flange. The whole idea with this gun and this nozzle here I got, which is a quarter inch tubing that's inserted on there, that allows me to get to the back side of that flange and seal up that corner nice and tight. And we're going to do that to the other 3 corners as well. That pure black squeezed to the outside edge of the unit, so it basically will seal up any gaps, and then you can use, a shingle and just kind of flatten it out. It is a low expansion, so it won't put any pressure on the jam, but it will seal that corner up nice and tight for you. And now we'll apply the Vicor. Okay, so now we're going to start applying the Vicor. And we're going to start with the sides first, and what we're going to do is overlap the edge of the unit about 1/4 inch. Just get it nice and tight to that corner, and up above the head jam about 4 to 6 inches, and cut away the excess if we need to, and then just bring it right down, keeping it overlap onto the unit. If you're working at temperatures that are a little bit colder, this is not going to stick as easily. You may need to use a heat gun or keep it inside your vehicle where it's warm, and so when you get ready to use it, it stays nice and flexible for you. Okay, so you get that secured. So now we got the two sides on, and we're going to apply the head jam, Vicor, and we want to lap that as well. Lapping that right onto the head jam, overlapping that. Make sure it's nice and tight. So you can see where this house wrap is going to be kind of the last line of defense. It's going to wrap down over the top of that. If you got little overlaps here on the corners, just give it a little slice downward. Just make sure those are nice and tight. Okay, so we're all set with the installation of the unit. You can see, with the amount of work that this went into, to keep this thing weather tight. And we talked about some of high performance and the corners, getting those nice and tight. Some caulking procedures that will increase the performance of the unit as well. These are all things we need to take in consideration when we live here on the Cape, because of the way we're building right now. The way the houses, the inside of the cavities are, being built so tight, using icing insulation, things of that nature. So we really need to try to see if we can high performance these units, and obviously the use of air exchangers, in heating systems, or pumping air back into the house, creating an equalized pressure. When we get these big storms, this is where it's going to leak. It's not going to leak through the wall with all the icing insulation that's on it. It's going to be right here at an opening, whether it be a door or a window. So we need to make sure we're just really paying attention to that. So thanks for joining me today and the rest of the crew here, and if you got any questions, feel free to give us a call. And again, these frames can be ordered through the factory as a setup, or you can have it done at Shepley's. To do this in the field takes a little bit more time, and it's especially if you've never done one before, it's going to take a lot of time. So keep that in mind. Thank you so much.